Welcome, everyone. Today we're diving deep into Ismaili history, spanning centuries and continents. It's a story about a community that has really held on to their belief in divinely guided Imams and how that has shaped their journey, sometimes leading to real challenges and persecution.
Yeah, it's like a tapestry woven with threads of faith, scholarship, and even political maneuvering. We'll be exploring how this unique branch of Shia Islam navigated these complex historical landscapes, like from the early days of Islam all the way to the modern era.
Get ready for some twists and turns, secret networks of emissaries, powerful empires, even periods of going into hiding, all driven by this really profound spiritual mission.
So let's start right at the beginning. We have to talk about the foundation of this story with this question of rightful leadership after the Prophet Muhammad died.
Right. That's where the whole Shia-Sunni split originates, right?
Exactly. The Sunnis, they accepted the caliphate, this system of leadership outside the Prophet's family. But the Shia, they believed that the leadership should stay within the Prophet's bloodline, starting with his cousin and son-in-law, Imam Ali.
So for the Shia, it was about making sure the Prophet's legacy continued through his family.
Precisely. They saw the Imams as divinely appointed successors. They carry this spiritual authority to interpret the Quran and guide the community. And, this difference of belief led to a whole series of events and even further divisions within, the Shia community itself.
And that's where the Ismailis kind of emerge as a distinct branch.
Yes. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, who was a descendant of Ali, was a key figure in Shia thought. And his death in 765 AD raised this big question. Who would succeed him as Imam?
It was a succession crisis that caused a rift.
Yeah, you could say that.
Wow.
One group, which became the Twelver Shia, followed Musa al-Kazim, his son. But the Ismailis, they followed the lineage of Imam Ismail, who was Ja'far's elder son.
So this is where their path really diverges, leading them down a road with, a lot of challenges, right? And was that because of conflicting interpretations of the faith?
Well, partly, yeah. But it was also a time of intense political upheaval. I mean, the early Ismailis faced persecution, even from other Shia factions who didn't recognize their choice of imam.
Wow. So how did they even survive in such a hostile environment? Did they have to, compromise their beliefs at all?
They adopted taqiyya.
Right, taqiyya. That's concealing one's beliefs for safety. I mean, that sounds like such a difficult choice to make, especially when your faith is so important to you.
It was a strategic necessity. They had to safeguard their community and their faith. And this period is known as the Dar al-Satr, or the period of concealment. And this is where their story gets really interesting. The four imams that came after Ismail, they went into hiding. They were secretly organizing and guiding the community.
Hidden imams, organizing in secret. This is starting to sound like a spy thriller or something.
Right. Imagine this network of dedicated people working tirelessly to keep their faith alive. All the while, they're facing this constant threat of persecution. This network was called the Dawah, and it played a critical role in sustaining the Ismaili community during these turbulent times.
So the Dawah, it was more than just a missionary network then?
No, absolutely. Think of the Dais as highly trained emissaries. They were skilled in diplomacy, intellectual pursuits, some even in martial arts. They were cultural ambassadors, scholars, strategists, even protectors.
Wow. That's a lot of hats to wear.
That's it.
They sound like incredibly well-rounded individuals.
Yeah.
Were they working towards a particular goal? Beyond just survival, I mean.
Their mission was multifaceted. They had to strengthen the community, spreading their teachings of the Ismaili interpretation. But ultimately, they were striving to establish an Ismaili state, a place where they could practice their faith openly without fear.
So even while they were in hiding, they were still working towards a brighter future for their people. That's incredible.
Their resilience and belief in their imams is truly inspiring, and their efforts during this period of concealment, really set the stage for a major turning point in their history. It was a moment that would change everything.
That sounds like a story we definitely need to hear more about. But first, maybe it's important to understand what was at the heart of their beliefs, what made them so resilient and set them apart, within the larger Shia community.
Well, at their core, the Ismailis, like all Muslims, believed in the oneness of God and the teachings of the Prophet Muhammad. But, they emphasized this unique concept, zahir and batin.
Okay, zahir and batin. Those are interesting terms. Can you, explain that a little bit?
Sure. Zahir refers to the outward, the literal aspects of the faith. So things like the Sharia, Islamic law, it's the aspect that's visible to everyone. But batin, That's the esoteric dimension, the hidden spiritual truths, the things that are beneath the surface. It's about seeking a deeper understanding of the Quran's meaning.
So it's like two layers of understanding. The exoteric for everyday practice, and then the esoteric for those who are seeking like a more profound spiritual connection.
Exactly. The Ismailis believed that while the outward laws were important to observe, true enlightenment came from penetrating these inner mysteries of faith, like understanding the hidden symbolism and allegorical interpretations of the Quran.
And who holds the key to unlocking those deeper meanings?
The Imam, of course. He's not just a political figurehead. He is the spiritual guide, possessing the divine knowledge to lead the believers towards enlightenment. And this belief in the Imam's spiritual authority, passed down through this continuous lineage from Ali, it was central to shaping Ismaili history and their resilience in facing all this adversity.
It's not just about following rules, it's about seeking that profound understanding of the faith through the Imam's guidance.
That's a great way to put it. And this concept of zahir and batin, combined with their belief in their Imams, really set the stage for some remarkable achievement, including, the establishment of a really powerful empire that changed history.
Now, that definitely sounds like a story for part 2 of our deep dive.
Yeah.
So we left off with the Ismailis, like setting the stage for a whole new chapter in their history.
Okay, yeah.
They were in hiding, strengthening their community, holding on to their faith, and all the while dreaming of having an Ismaili state where they could practice openly. Did that vision ever become a reality?
It did. And it happened in a pretty amazing way. By the early 10th century, the Dawah had successfully paved the way for one of the hidden Imams, Abdallah al-Mahdi, to come out of secrecy. He was proclaimed caliph in North Africa, and that marked the beginning of the Fatimid Empire.
Wow, that must have been such a huge moment for the Ismailis. I mean, what was it like for them to finally have this state that was led by their Imam?
Oh, it was a huge symbol of hope. It was proof of their resilience and the fulfillment of something they'd wanted for so long. The Fatimids, they were named after Fatima, the Prophet Muhammad's daughter, because they traced their lineage back to her. And they quickly solidified their power and established their capital in Cairo.
Cairo, a city that's so rich in history and culture. Did the Fatimids contribute to that legacy at all?
They absolutely did. Under the Fatimids, Cairo became this incredible center of learning and culture. It attracted scholars and intellectuals from all over the Muslim world. They even founded Al-Azhar University, which is still one of the oldest and most respected universities in the world today.
So they weren't just focused on political power then. They were also patrons of knowledge and scholarship.
Exactly. The Fatimid rulers believed that seeking knowledge was a way of worshiping, a way to get closer to God. Their libraries were filled with all these amazing, rare manuscripts, and their courts were alive with debates about philosophy, science, theology. Their patronage led to advancements in astronomy, medicine, math, and, eventually all that knowledge even made its way to Europe and influenced the Renaissance.
It's incredible how connected history is, how knowledge can just travel across borders and time.
Mm-hmm.
But ruling an empire is never easy, right? I mean, did the Fatimids face any challenges to their authority?
Well, of course. Maintaining an empire that big and diverse, it came with its own set of challenges. They had opposition from rival dynasties like the Abbasids in Baghdad. They saw the Fatimids as a threat to their own legitimacy.
So there was this constant power struggle.
Yeah, you could say that. The Fatimids had to be very strategic. They had to navigate those political rivalries while also consolidating their rule and managing a really complex society.
And what about within the Ismaili community? Did they all agree on the way the empire was being run?
Well, like any large group, there were differences of opinion within the community. But one event in particular led to this big schism, a split that had some lasting consequences.
This sounds like a major turning point. What happened?
It happened after Imam al-Mustansir died in 1094. He had named his older son Nizar as his successor, which followed the traditional line of succession.
Seems pretty straightforward. What caused the schism then?
Well, some powerful figures in the Fatimid court, especially this military commander named al-Afdal, they had other plans. They supported al-Mustansir's younger son, al-Mustali.
So those internal power struggles started affecting the line of imamat.
Yeah, that's right. Al-Afdal used his influence to make al-Mustali the caliph in Cairo. But in Persia and parts of Syria, Nizar's supporters, they refused to accept that. They believed that the imamat should have gone to Nizar.
So then the Ismaili community was split. One branch following al-Mustali in Cairo and the other supporting Nizar.
Exactly. The ones who stayed loyal to Nizar, they became known as the Nizaris. And their story takes a pretty dramatic turn, you know? It's a story of strategic brilliance and adaptation in the face of, like, growing pressure.
And this is where we hear about the famous fortress of Alamut.
You got it.
Yeah.
The Nizaris, under the leadership of this really interesting figure, Hassani Saba, they faced growing hostility from both Sunni rulers and the Fatimids in Cairo. So they adopted a new approach to survival.
So instead of trying to control huge territories, they shifted to a more defensive strategy.
That's right. They focused on creating a network of fortresses strategically placed in the mountains, and Alamut, high up in the Alborz Mountains of Persia, became their most famous stronghold. Alamut wasn't just a military base, though. It was a symbol of Nizari resistance, a center of learning, and even a place of spiritual refuge.
Hassani Saba, the leader of the Nizaris, he's a figure who's shrouded in all this mystery and legend. I mean, what can you tell us about him?
Well, Hassani Saba, he was a brilliant strategist, a scholar, a charismatic leader, the kind of guy who inspired incredible loyalty from his followers. He knew the importance of knowledge and education, so he established libraries and brought scholars to Alamut, but he also understood that they needed a strong defense, so he developed this system of intelligence gathering that was really ahead of its time.
So he turned Alamut into more than just a fortress. It was a place of learning, a center of resistance. Did that strategy of focusing on these strongholds actually work?
It did for a while. The Nizaris were able to stand their ground against much larger forces. You know, they knew the terrain so well, and their mastery of defense tactics made them really formidable opponents. But then in the 13th century, a new power came on the scene, one that would challenge even the strongest fortresses, the Mongols.
The Mongols, known for their ruthless military campaigns and, their vast empire. That must have been a terrifying thing for the Nizaris to face.
It was a huge challenge, for sure. Under Hulagu Khan, the Mongol armies were conquering everything in their path as they swept across Asia. And Alamut, even though it was strategically located and well defended, was right in their way.
So even mighty Alamut couldn't withstand the Mongol onslaught.
Sadly, no. They put up a good fight, but Alamut fell to the Mongols in 1256. The fortress was destroyed, its libraries were burned, and many Ismailis were killed. It was a devastating loss for sure. It marked the end of an era for the Nizaris.
That must have been heartbreaking for the community, losing their stronghold like that, facing such a terrible defeat. Did that mark the end for the Ismailis?
It was a major setback, no doubt, but it wasn't the end. The Ismaili spirit, it endured. They adapted, you know, like they'd done so many times before. Their communities, they were scattered, but they continued to thrive in Persia, Syria, India, and their story of resilience and adaptation, it continued to unfold, and we'll explore that journey into the modern world in the last part of our deep dive.
So we've been on this journey through centuries of Ismaili history, and it's really amazing to see their dedication to their faith and how they've bounced back from so much adversity. But their story doesn't just stop with the fall of Alamut, right? How do they handle the challenges of, the modern world?
Well, even though they were scattered and had faced some truly difficult times, the Ismaili community continued to flourish. Their ability to adapt and their focus on education played a big role in their survival. And in the modern era, their story takes a new turn with the Aga Khans as their leaders.
The Aga Khans, yeah. Their name is known worldwide.
Yeah.
I'm curious about, their role within the Ismaili community. It's not just a religious title, though, is it?
Right, you've got it. The title Aga Khan was actually given to Imam Hassan Ali Shah by the Shah of Persia back in the early 19th century. And initially, it was more of a hereditary title. It came with, political and social privileges rather than being specifically religious.
So how did it become so connected to the Ismaili imamate then?
Well, when Imam Hassan Ali Shah moved to India in the mid-1800s, the title Aga Khan became really closely associated with his role as the Imam of the Ismailis. And his successors, they continued that. They led the community spiritually, but also became real champions for social development and preserving their culture.
Yeah, the Aga Khans are really known for their philanthropic work. Can you talk more about their impact, both on the Ismaili community and on the world as a whole?
Sure. Sir Sultan Muhammad Shah, Aga Khan III, he was a major figure on the world stage. He advocated for Muslim rights and really promoted education. He encouraged Ismailis to engage with the modern world, all while still holding on to their faith and their values. His vision really laid the groundwork for the community's success in navigating a world that was rapidly changing around them.
Sounds like he was a bridge between, tradition and progress. What about his successor, Prince Karim Aga Khan IV? How did he carry on that legacy?
Prince Karim Aga Khan IV put a lot of emphasis on education, economic empowerment, and just improving the quality of life, not just for Ismailis, but for people of all faiths and backgrounds, really. And he did that through the Aga Khan Development Network.
Oh yeah, the Aga Khan Development Network. Their work in healthcare, education, fighting poverty, it's really inspiring stuff. What drives their commitment to such a wide range of humanitarian efforts?
Well, at the heart of it all is this belief in pluralism, tolerance, and ethical development. They're all about empowering communities, helping them become self-reliant and sustainable. It really reflects that Ismaili tradition of balancing faith with a commitment to social progress.
It's such a powerful example of how faith can be a force for good in the world. It's
Yeah.
amazing when you look back at their journey, how the Ismailis have always adapted to new circumstances, but stayed true to their faith.
Yeah, it speaks to the human spirit, that ability to overcome tough times and find ways to thrive. Even through centuries of persecution, political turmoil, and cultural shifts, they held on to their belief in divinely guided imams. That's where they found strength and guidance.
It's a powerful story about resilience, adaptation, and unwavering faith. It reminds us that history isn't just a bunch of dates and events. It's about the lasting power of what people believe in and how connected our human experiences really are.
It also shows that faith and modern life, they aren't at odds with each other. These Ismailis are living proof that tradition and progress can coexist. It creates this vibrant, dynamic community that makes a real difference in the world.
We've covered so much ground in this deep dive. From the very beginnings of Islam, to empires rising and falling, to the complexities of the modern world, the Ismailis have shown just how adaptable and strong they are.
And their story reminds us that history is packed with these fascinating, interconnected narratives. And each one gives us valuable insights into how complex human belief is and our constant search for meaning and purpose.
We hope that this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and given you a glimpse into this rich history of the Ismailis.
Maybe it'll even inspire you to learn more, to really dive into the different cultures and beliefs that make our world what it is.
Thank you so much for joining us on this journey. We'll see you next time.